Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Investor Lab, the auditory epicenter for passionate people seeking a life of freedom, choice, and abundance. But of course, you know that, and that's why you're here. Today, we had a very special guest. I know I've said that a few times, but I'm just so blessed that I keep getting, I say a hashtag blessed, that I keep getting the opportunity to have a chat with so many inspiring individuals from all walks of life. Today's guest was Michael Lane from Success Resources. Now, if you don't know who he is or what they do, they are basically the world's largest entrepreneurship and business education seminar company. They've got clients such as Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, heaps and heaps, Richard Branson, you name it. So he's big in the game in that sense, but he's also got an amazing insight into how to think, how to act, and all kinds of stuff that are going to help you on your property, business, entrepreneurship journey as you grow and develop. So we do talk a lot about business in this episode, but again, think of your property journey like a business. And there's a lot that you can take away from it if you start to think in that direction. We covered heaps of really great ground. And on a personal level, I got so much out of this. And I learned a lot about Michael that I didn't know. And I'm sure that you're going to have a few surprises as you listen to this episode as well. We talked about, how to create a vision that's strong enough and big enough to achieve global impact. We talked about his mission to impact over 1 billion people globally. We talked about the role that failure plays in every journey to success and how to balance relationships and business and how to find harmony instead of balance. There was so many amazing things we covered there. We talked about building a legacy, and of course we talked about real estate investing as well. And we talked about why he believes it's a good thing to do for anyone who wants to progress their financial capital. And there's so much gold in there. Absolute dynamite episode. And I'm really grateful to Michael for spending some time with me and actually spending some time with you, because this is a man who has built multiple successful global businesses. And these are the opportunities that we all get from time to time to take a peek through the window and see where we can go. So I hope you get as much out of this as I did. I'm certain that you will. And of course, if you wanted to take this further and if you wanted to connect with us and everything we do in our mission, then just head to theinvestorlab.com.au to find the many ways that we can support your journey, both free and compensated. We are here to serve you where you are at. So don't be afraid. Head to theinvestorlab.com.au. Make use of it. We've got books. We've got free guides. We've obviously got this podcast. We've got videos. We've got our community, which is probably the best place that you can get to if you really want to incubate and accelerate your journey as well. So without further ado, I look forward to seeing you on the inside. Hey guys, welcome back to the Investor Lab. Now, joining me today is a very special guest. Now, he is a successful entrepreneur who has built a global business which helps entrepreneurs become successful by learning from other successful entrepreneurs talking about success. And his company is now the world's largest, correct me if I'm wrong, but the world's largest seminar provider in the business and entrepreneurship space. With annual revenues of over $1 billion. So it's a huge success story there. I'm obviously talking about the inimitable Michael Lane from Success Resources. Michael, welcome to the Investor Lab.
Thank you, mate. And I do want to correct you. I wish we were doing $1 billion a year, but no, we've done over $1 billion in that business. So,
mate, that's still fantastic. So I thought I knew there'd be something in there that I might have mislabeled slightly, but it's epic. And what I want to dig into today, and look, I really want to say publicly, thanks for your time. You're obviously running a global business with many moving parts. And as someone who's been in business myself for 15 years, in different ways, I know how much time that takes, energy that takes. So I really want to say thanks for showing up and offering something to our audience too.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So what I want to talk about today, now, we sort of touched on this just before we came on air. Our audience is made up of property investors, but typically entrepreneurial property investors, some business owners, some aspiring, all of that kind of stuff. I really want to get a bit of a perspective on your journey, not in an autobiographical sense, but I really sort of want to dig into how you've actually managed to do what you're doing, because it's no mean feat. one thing I want to ask is, actually, let's just take it back a little bit in case people don't know who you are. How big is Success Resources, and what do you guys do?
Yeah, look, we're traditionally a seminar company. Now, as we record this, we're in the tail end of COVID-19. And, last year, to give you some idea, we did 525 events in 37 countries. As I sit here right now, I'm doing 0 live events, but I'm doing digital events. So we have a pretty large business where we service millions of clients every single year in dozens of countries around the world. And what I do is I partner with the world's best thought leaders, entrepreneurs, leaders, and we scale their message around the world. So, some cool people I've had on stage is Sir Richard Branson, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins. These are guys that I've partnered with, and in some of those for 15, 20 years I've partnered with them, and we tour them both physically and digitally. And yeah, we're in the business of educating entrepreneurs.
That's awesome. So my background before being in the real estate space was actually in events. So,
Okay.
And I don't mean cocktail parties either. I was doing event and site and production management for stuff like, places like Glastonbury Festival, Future Music Festival, like large scale touring events. I reckon at best, I was probably doing at the peak when I was doing the most. I think I did about 28 events in a year, and that was hectic. How many people are in your team, or how do you manage over 500 events in a year?
Yeah, look, it's a lot. Typically it's 10 a week somewhere in the world. So you need an amazing team. Let's be really honest. If it was just up to me, nothing would be happening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't put on an event. I don't know what to do with the microphones, the audio visual. I could probably collect your ticket at the door. That's probably, if we're talking about qualifications, I could probably collect a ticket. But I've got 250 staff in 10 offices around the world. They are the true heroes. They're the people who take my wacky ideas and execute them. And look, one of the things that I found out or discovered on my journey is I'm really good at the strategy side of the business. And I needed to execute those strategies, but I needed to find a team to execute them. So back in the day when I came up with a harebrained idea to do something, it was always, here's the strategy, then I'm going to go try and sell it and scale it and figure it out. Now, I just would rather either joint venture with people who can scale quickly, or I'd hire people who can do the execution part. And look, you can't run 500 events and have a small team. You need great partners and great team.
Yeah, I mean, I would go as far as to say, if you want to achieve any level of greatness, you need to build a team, right?
Absolutely.
So, tell me a little bit. Why did you decide to start Success Resources?
Look, to be brutally honest, I didn't start it. I bought into this a long time ago.
Great.
I've got 2 business partners. One's been doing this for 35 years. The other one's been doing it for 26. I came into the business commission only on the sales floor in 2003.
Fantastic.
And within 18 months, I was the young, arrogant, egotistical entrepreneur who goes, you know what? I can do this myself. And I left the business, went and did some stuff myself, made some really good money really quickly. But then I figured out I had one revenue stream because I had one speaker. And then he had health complications and all of a sudden I had no business. So there's a journey like we always have and we've always got. I eventually came back after trying a whole heap of other stuff. In 2009, I bought into the business then when we were doing 3 events a year, and we're in one city, and we're doing in Sydney. And look, since 2009 till today, it's been a pretty hectic run, but there's so many ups and downs in that journey. I'm giving you the 3-minute version, but oh my God, I could tell you.
Who's been the driver of that growth? Is that like who is the leading force behind changing that from a 3 events a year company in 2009 or whatever it was to now over 500? Like has that been you, or has that been one of the other partners?
Look, it's been collectively all of us. my business partners are both in their 60s. I just turned 40. I'm the one with the, yeah, I'm the young, aspirational, probably too big for my boots sometimes, but I'm the guy who is sort of the face of it, the social side of it. When I said to my other two founders and the board, I'm like, guys, we need to start doing content. We need to get the phone up and start doing stuff. I looked around the table and most of them said, what are you even talking about? So, we're only 3 years. I'm only 3 years into doing a bit of content and putting a bit of a face behind the brand, but very, very much so. There is a board, there's an executive team, and there are 75 amazing leaders and managers within our business who all contribute to this success.
How much do you think, because I've noticed you are online, multiple platforms, always quite vocal, and you're a great face for the business, of course. How much has content marketing, how much is your personal brand of content marketing? We don't want to get stuck on this, but I'm very interested. How much is your efforts in that field, taking videos and doing all that kind of stuff, contributed, do you think, either soft or like just a soft metric or just an opinion, how much has that contributed to the overall success of the business? And the backside of that is, do you think that is a requisite for creating a successful business in any field in the market today?
When I first got into it, I didn't know if it was going to have any impact, to be really honest. I remember it was Naomi Simpson who said, and I was about to put it on stage one year in 2015 or 16. She goes, Michael, what is this business? I know nothing about it. No one's ever heard of it. It's a great Australian success story in 20 odd countries back then. And no one knows of you guys. So much so that, when we first reached out, she thought we were a mining company, Success Resources.
Wow.
When you say resources in Australia, but she said, Michael, you need to do content. I did nothing with that until I started promoting a gentleman called Gary Vaynerchuk. And he goes, dude, if you don't start doing content, you're stuffed. And I really took note of that. So look, to answer your question, it has been pivotal in our success. And now let me break that down. Michael Lane spruiking what we're doing is not going to be successful. Michael Lane sharing the values of our business authentically with an audience does get some traction. But here's where the real rubber hits the road. It's allowed me to connect with entrepreneurs that maybe I couldn't have in the past. It's allowed me to do deals with people because I've got some level of expertise. And when I am backstage and I've got Sir Richard Branson next to me or Tony Robbins or some other amazing person, it helps. But here's a real life example. I did an acquisition on a company last year based off a post I did on LinkedIn. That company today is worth $100 million. That was from a post I did on LinkedIn.
As in they reached out to you after you did a post on LinkedIn and they said, hey, and they started the relationship off the back of that?
Correct. Now,
wow.
if I'd never picked up the phone, if I never shared the voice that I have and the values that I have, I would never have done that deal. So I can now tell you, and I'm actually starting to document this because there is a huge correlation between my content, my voice, and scaling this business. And multiple businesses now, when we're talking primarily around my Success Resources company, I have several other businesses, and most of them in the last 3 years have come through social media. And so much so, every 3 months I go out and go, hey guys, I'm looking to partner or joint venture with somebody who here has an amazing business that would like me to scale in 37 countries with 6.7 million clients. That gets you some attention.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? Because I'm pretty proactive in getting out there and getting my face and my voice heard. I've sort of backed off a little bit over the last couple of months, but we've been growing the podcast. And I think it's very important that we share our values and our story and everything like that, because realistically, it's authenticity and connection, which is going to build a better world. That's my opinion. Now, just from thinking how that can actually, you talk about joint ventures, and obviously within the real estate space, there are a lot of joint ventures as well. Like there's joint ventures on developments. There's loads of different ways that people can partner with and joint venture with other people. And I would say that everything you've just shared about the impact of personal brand message or authenticity, expertise and stuff like that can be shared by pretty much anyone. If anyone wants to go out and share their story, and what that could do is open you up to the ability to expand your own, say, your investing journey. So, for example, if you were buying properties or doing whatever and you're involved in the space and you got a passion for the space, even if you just have a passion for it and you're not even doing any deals yet, but you can bring value to people, then people are going to look to you for value and build that. They're going to build up that value relationship in their own mind. And then when you say, hey, I'm interested in doing a joint venture on a small development, is anyone interested? There's going to be a whole bunch of people who have already built a relationship in their own mind. And I think that's a super valuable takeaway. Now, I want to ask a little bit about failure. How long have you been, how many businesses have you had? How many businesses do you currently own? And currently own, manage, or whatever you're involved in? And what role has failure played in the development of your business journey to date?
Okay, so there's a few questions in there. I'm actually documenting. Here's my book, and I'm going through this at the moment and actually documenting every single venture that I've done. Now, there's 550 plus ventures, to give you some idea. And I'm trying to document them and remember them all. I wish I had documented every single one. Here's what I've done. I document my losses. I document a lot of the stuff-ups that I've made. Because, mate, I've left billions of dollars on the table. And I learn more from my losses than I do from my wins. So I can't tell you how many. Do you mean I have in the vicinity of probably 30-odd ventures on the go? Mm-hmm. I know major failures that I was the founder is 9. And even good businesses that shouldn't have gone bust, that I just stuffed up.
Yeah. So just on those 9 that you were the founder and they were the sort of major failures, and that's like you from go to woe, you started it and you stuffed it up and they're dead.
Yeah.
What specifically around those rather than the more minor ones, how has that shaped your journey? Like, how has that shaped who you are today?
Massively. I'll tell you why. Because I was a young, egotistical entrepreneur who thought that every single deal was going to make $1 billion. And that's just not how the world works. I was also naive to think that I've got to retain 100% of every deal. Now, when you retain 100% of every deal, you're responsible for everything that happens. So a lot of the ventures I have now, I could take 5%, 15%. The most I'll take is 50%. I never want 100% of any opportunity ever again in my life. And I would rather take a minor share than a major, because I want somebody else awake at night thinking about it more than me. So when you've had so many failures, so many losses, so many joint ventures, you quickly realize that I'd rather give somebody the lion's share and somebody the major component of it. For example, I'm doing a deal right now with, I'm talking a company that does 100 million turnover. Founders are worth $500 million, top 3 brand in that field globally. And I'm walking in their boardroom at the moment and I'm doing 90% of the work. And I'm giving them between 50 to 75%. They don't know this yet. I've offered them 50, I'll go to 75 on a new code company, because they've got 20 million clients that if I take my idea and concept and they tap it into their 20 million clients, it can scale so much quicker than me trying to go, hey, let's put a social media team together and then let's get 3 people on the phone. I'm like, I just can't do that anymore, right? I did that model. It does not work. It's slow and steady, and slow and steady slowly kills a business. So everything I do now, I will go give almost the lion's share to somebody, but that somebody either has massive scale or they can execute so much better than I can. And when you understand that game, and then this is not a Michael Lang game. This is a Richard Branson game. This is a Donald Trump game before he turned into who he is. This is a Jamie Packer. This is all these guys. They don't take the lion's share. They stick to the strategy and get someone else to take the lion's share to do the execution.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And it's interesting because I often, like whenever we've got to make an interesting decision, because sometimes you've got to face those decisions between minutia and, strategy or whatever. I often ask myself, would Richard Branson do this? Is that actually the thing that I need to go and do if I want to build a good business? Because I'm not sure that Richard Branson would do that if he was in my shoes. And I kind of do actually put that lens over it to try and help to think more strategically.
Super smart. I love that.
And I think one of the interesting things you pointed out there that you kind of danced around, but I wanted to highlight is the interesting thing is when you own more than 50%. So when you are the majority stakeholder in any arrangement, particularly if you're 100%, what you are essentially putting a caveat on is my ideas are the silo. Now, if you own 100% of a venture, you own 100% of the reward, 100% of the risk, but you're also cushioning yourself in a lot of ways from challenging perspectives. If you go into 50% partnership, somebody else is going to have a different life experience, they're going to be listening to different podcasts, have different coaches, have walked a different path to get there. And you may, that challenge and that friction or that cooperation or however that may be, those two energies running against each other is what's going to create a better synergy over the long term. So I think there's a real risk when people go, look, I want all of it. Me personally, I'd rather have a little bit and help other people succeed and find more prosperity through that, through the success of others, and just and go like your favor, you take more, I think is a better way to do it. So
I agree. And the same with property developers. It's like you're probably going to do more than one deal, right? And if you can give away 95% of the profit, you keep 5 and you learn what you need to learn from that, and you leverage off the partnership. Here's a real life deal I did. I gave 95% to a very big company, and I took 5%. I would have done it for 0, to be really honest, just to have proximity. I since used that name and that brand and generated $10 million worth of deals in 18 months after it because I said I was in business with those guys. So I call it, in my world, my entrepreneurial apprenticeship. Yep. You need to figure it out. You need to go figure out the lessons, learnings, and get proximity to people who are doing it on a massive scale. Same with property developers, property investors. It's probably not, you're probably going to do 5, 10, 20 deals over your career. Give away the money and learn what you can in the first couple.
Yeah, 100%. There's interesting at the moment. We're actually putting together a couple of deals, and our perspective is, look, we're actually happy to loss lead or just leave all the money on the table. Don't mind, because the bigger picture over the 5, 10, 20, 30-year timeline is that there's a huge amount of relationship capital, financial capital, intellectual capital, which will be gained over the long run. So I've got a few questions that I want to ask you on a more personal level, but given that you surround yourself with so many successful people in actually business relationships, but then also in the function of Success Resources as a company, do you have personal mentors, or do you just absorb it all by osmosis, or how do you continuously challenge your own perspectives?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, if you don't have mentors, I believe you're 10 years behind where you would be if you had a mentor. I've got mentors in probably 6 different areas of my life. I've got virtual mentors or global mentors who are people that I tune into their podcasts. I'm constantly learning. I listen to Gary V. I partnered with Gary for 4 years, but I listen to Gary's content religiously because I'll pick up something that'll help me in my business. That's a no-cost, massive value exchange from one of the most iconic marketing minds on the planet. It would be idiotic of me not to tune into that. But again, I think you need to have people who you can call, people you can meet up with, who are experts as well. So yeah, I truly believe in it.
Awesome. Now, given that you are running all of these businesses and you're very busy and you've got a global company that you're the managing director of and all of that kind of stuff, plus you're producing a lot of social content, personal brand, and all of that kind of stuff, how do you balance your relationship, your personal relationship with your wife and your family? How do you balance that with your business? Because I think this is one of the mistakes that a lot of people make, is that they throw themselves. I'm a massive proponent of hard work, but they throw themselves into their business or into their real estate journey or into like whatever that may be, and they kind of lose balance. How have you managed to navigate that?
Yeah, look, I'm in my 20th year of business, so there's no. I'm figuring it out as I go. And because I invest a lot of time in my own education, I'm constantly evolving my ideas and my thoughts. I'm of the belief that there is no such thing as balance. There's just harmony. Right? I've taken time out of business and I wasn't happy because I truly believe business is one of the things that I'm here to do. I have to have an amazing schedule. I have to schedule family time. I have to schedule trips away. I'm currently in Byron as we speak now. I've set up a room in this house we've rented, and I'm in here for 7 hours a day, every single day, doing business. And then the other hours I'm at the beach with the kids, I'm doing other things. So there is no balance in my world. That's my own philosophy. I've just found harmony entwining both into it. And look, I've got a very, very understanding wife. She gives me a lot of, what's probably the best word? She gives me a long leash for me to do what I want to do. And look, I'm extremely clear on why I'm here and what I'm doing for the next 10 years. And if you're not clear and you're just showing up every day, I don't think you're truly valuing the time you've got. So for me, I've got a very understanding family, but I schedule and have a lot of time daily where I'm spending time face-to-face, no technology.
Why are you here? Or actually, let me rephrase that question. What is the vision, but also how do you create a vision strong enough to keep pulling you forward for 20, 30? How do you create that vision that is that strong?
Yeah. Well, firstly, my vision is by 2050 to impact 1 billion people through positive education.
Sick.
It's very clear. For 20 years, I've been working towards this. Every year I get closer and closer. There's 2 key areas that I focus on. The first one was Tony Robbins telling me back in 2011, backstage at an event we were running, and it wasn't just me, there was a couple of people around, and someone asked the key question, but I felt like Tony was talking directly to me. And he said, when you've got a vision for yourself, you can only impact yourself. When you've got a vision for your community, you can only impact your community. When you've got a vision for humanity, you can truly make a difference. And when you truly start working on a big vision like that, you start to collaborate and you start to do things at a much bigger level. So that really woke me up because it was all about Michael Lane in the beginning. It was all about what car could I buy, what stuff could I acquire, the penthouses, the houses, whatever it was. And it wasn't fulfilling. And when you taste success, I was blessed to taste success, which, let's be honest, success in the early stages is money. At 24, I made my first $1 million. What I realized is when I walked down to the garage and got into my car, the happiness started to dissipate on the car, on the house, on the things that I thought would make me happy. It wasn't sustainable. So then I realized it's not about the stuff that I can acquire. I get more happiness out of making an impact in other people's lives than I do impacting my life with an extra car or whatever it may be. So when you understand that, you start to play a different game. You start to tap into that thing Tony talked about. And the last thing for me is really the legacy play. Everyone gets to their deathbed and goes, fuck, I wish I did this. I wish I could have done that. I'm working on that now because I don't want it to be something that I do later. So to give you an idea, my 1 billion people impacted is a series of collaborations, partnerships with the world's greatest and most influential people who will hopefully partner with me, and some of them already are, on helping people understand the entrepreneurial journey. People like The Rock, Oprah, Kevin Hart, different people who go, I've got a message and I've got a story, and everyone thinks it's, all like this on a 45-degree angle, and it's not. So what lessons can they share with my audience in collaboration with me over the next decade? And some of these people, if I name 10 of them that I'm talking to, that's 1 billion people right there. So it's all there. But here's the next important piece. I'm in phase 1 of my journey. Phase 1 is from me to 50. And that's building generational wealth for me so that the second half of my life, 50 to 94, is about trying to make a bigger impact on the planet. So for the next 10 years, I'm working freaking hard. I've got 10 years to get this done. And then I've got to move on to helping bigger things.
You kind of touched on it, legacy. Like, why is this important to you? Like, why is it important for you to impact 1 billion people, build generational wealth, focus 44 years on creating global impact? Why is that important? And what is it that you actually do want to be remembered for out of all of this?
Firstly, I'm arrogant enough to think I can. I truly believe that. I'm a guy who grew up in Brisbane who dreamed about having a nice car. What I've seen over the last 20 years of what if I put my mind to it and I focus clearly, there's some amazing stuff that can happen, right? So I just think I can. And it's really weird. I get a much greater sense of happiness by helping someone else. Now, that's extremely cliche, and I never believed in it until 3-4 years ago. But I get emotional when I know I've made an impact on somebody and they don't even know that I made that impact. It just gives me a greater ROI for me. So I want more ROI of happiness. And it's selfish. It may seem like, oh, I'm going to try and be this ultimate hero. I would just want to feel that sensation more often than not. And I just feel like that's kind of where I'm going to get my happiness.
Yeah, I totally get it. Like it's a pretty awakening moment for every. I hope everyone gets to feel it, but I'm sure they don't. When you realize that things have a diminishing return, stuff you can buy has a diminishing return. You could get the best apartment or the best house or the best car, and it's going to be sick. But every single day, it's a little bit less awesome until it becomes normalized, and then it's literally. It's the same level as if you had something half as expensive. And once you realize that has a diminishing return, if you really want to think about the investment of your emotional capital, not just your financial capital and stuff like that, then you go, well, what other ways can I fill this up? And what actually doesn't have a diminishing return? And I think that impact, service, all of that kind of stuff is really the only thing that I've found that has an exponential return, because when you can impact someone deeply, meaningfully, and in a lasting sense, in a positive way, you get that. You don't get a diminishing return. You might get the same amount, but then what they will do is they will then pass on some of that. That becomes exponential, and it goes outside of your control. I think that it's a pretty awakening moment when you realize that is a way that you can invest.
100%.
So, I want to ask you from a business owner's perspective, because we actually have quite a lot of clients that come and work with us who are business owners who have focused on building a business, and now they want to diversify out of business. And a lot of people, as business owners, will focus on like, okay, I'm going to get really good at this, and then they got no idea how to do. And then, I know people who have literally started 5-6 businesses because they didn't know what else to do. They're like, one was successful, I guess we just start another one. What are your thoughts on diversification? Do you stay within your lane and go, look, I'm in business and I just do business? Is that your asset class aside from your emotional and intellectual capital? Is that your asset class? How do you consider diversification as part of a holistic personal wealth strategy? Personal wealth, I don't just mean financial, I mean like holistic.
Yeah, look, I think you need a diverse strategy. Now, let's be really clear. My best investment class is business for me. Yep. I can go acquire businesses, no money down, and create massive wealth through that. I've done that for a long time through partnerships and joint ventures. But I'm a little bit exotic. I love trialing and testing different things. I could tell you some crazy things that I've invested in. Everything from I invested in professional golf players who couldn't make it to the tour. So I was the idiot who put my hand up and said, I think you've got something here. And I'd get a percentage of their winnings. And it never turned out, by the way. It was a horrible investment. But of course, property, shares, gold, silver. I've got some exotic stuff that I do. I am a part of a very small syndicate, and we invest in what we call sports trading. It's professional gambling. So we have a syndicate, and we do that. So look, I'm a little bit funny like that. Of course, bricks and mortar is such a great investment. But for me, my heart and soul is business. I will do business till the day I die. It just resonates with me, and it's where I seem to get the greatest ROI.
And you kind of touched on it there. Like, what is your opinion of property investing? Like, I'm actually in a couple of weeks, I've actually got Graham Holm, who I think is a business partner of yours, coming onto the show as well. And there's a lot of synergy there. And the reason I ask what is your opinion of property investing is I have noticed a seemingly uncanny coincidence between a lot of really successful entrepreneurs, or successful in my mind, I look up to them, people like Keith Cunningham, obviously Robert Kiyosaki. There's a whole range of them that have made, and Gary Keller, for example, who have made their way through property and then into business. What is your opinion on property investing? Do you have any thoughts on that at all? Are you an active investor? Have you just got what's your position on the whole topic?
Yeah, I think you're mad if you're not taking, buying land, buying something that's going to increase in value. I don't talk about this much, but I've got a business where we sold 600 real estate. We sold 600 properties last year. So I'm heavy into real estate. I just think you're mad and even if you're just an average investor, if you can sit here and put 20% down and not live in it. I'm a big fan of investment properties. I'm a big fan of putting a tenant in. What other asset class can you put 20% down, have someone else pay it off for the life of the property, and you've made 5 times, return on it? That's just a very basic strategy. I'm not talking about developing. I'm not talking about anything sophisticated. But I think, it's a great strategy to grow wealth over a long period of time. I don't believe in flipping. I don't believe in getting in and doing it short term. Land is going to continue to increase in value. So that's just a worthwhile investment. But I would tell anyone, and we tell our clients, if you're not buying investment properties, then there's something wrong.
And the you don't have to go into too many business details about it, but the 600 properties that you sold last year, were they apartments? Is it like apartment blocks? What's the kind of framework around that?
House and land packages, apartments, townhouses, you name it. So, in one of my businesses, I have a lot of investors. I have a lot of people who want to invest in properties and those kind of things. So, not that we're trying to break any records or anything, but pre-COVID, we probably would have sold 1,000 properties in this year in that business. And that would have been, probably one of the more significant companies in Australia doing that. So, look, I've got various investments, various ventures in diverse areas. Now, here's the key thing, though. I'm always looking for deals and stuff that have a education-orientated aspect. If it doesn't have education, you mentioned Graham Home before. That was a company, Infinity Group. I've known Graham and Rebecca for 8 years, and I sat on that deal for a couple of years longer than I should have, but I'm a partner in that deal. I'm an equity holder in that company. We started, because Graham's the number one mortgage broker in the country. Last year, 2019, won it over every agent in Australia. But when I got involved in that business, I turned it into a front-end education, financial education business. That education front-end business in the first year will do $20 million just in education. Now, that's a great qualified lead to go in and do financing and all those other things. So everything I do has to come back to my vision, has to come back to impacting 1 billion people. If not, now, there do have a couple of things. Sports gambling has nothing to do with education. So let me just be clear. I am doing a few exotic things that are outside the norm, but most of my stuff is that requires my time has to be education orientated.
How do you know when to take money off the table? Like, let's say you've got a business and it's going pretty well. How do you know, and it doesn't matter whether it's into property or into whatever, how do you know when it's the right time to take money off the table and to spearhead into a different, could be in business, could be in whatever, spearhead into another venture?
Look, it depends on the structure of your deal. I have many ventures where I don't take equity because I don't believe it's sellable, despite what my partners think. So I'll take a percentage of turnover. So to give you an idea and clarity, for 18 years, I haven't taken a salary in any business. I take a percentage of the turnover. Turnover is consistent every single week, every single month. So my usual deal is 2 to 4% of turnover. Now, we know that not every business has a profit or makes a profit. We know that even if you're profitable, you may not get a dividend. I've got a business of mine for 8 years. I've never taken a dividend, but it is sellable at some point. So you got to understand the structure of the deal. Now, if you have a equity-based deal, I suggest taking money off the table in the first 3 to 5 years. Otherwise, you start to look at it and go, what are we doing this for? Why isn't it, why aren't we realizing anything? So I'm very much the entrepreneur. I want to leave blue sky in it for somebody to take it north. So I will, in the next year, I will go sell a business. It'll be healthy. And if I wanted to roll my sleeves up with it and go another decade on it, I could get 8 times what I'll get for it. But I'm not, I did too many deals where I held on for way too long and got greedy and the market turned. So for me, I'm happy to take money off the table, realize it, and let someone else run with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. This year we actually, as a business, we started doing revenue share joint venture deals, not related to real estate, but related to business. And I think it's a great model and a really great way to kind of create that leverage and to leverage your skills and abilities without having to sit on the equity. Because it's funny, the way that I view real estate, and I think a lot of people don't, which is why I keep talking about it, is that real estate investing is a business. You know, you've got all of the same mechanisms. You've got cash flow, turnover, revenue, all of that kind of stuff, growth, equity, all of these kind of components that play into it. And it's about knowing what you need and knowing how to get into the deal and get out in the right way that serves what you need. So I'm mindful of time, and I just want to wrap up with one last little bit. You've got a wealth of experience and a wealth of knowledge and perspectives for the aspiring entrepreneur, real estate entrepreneur, or otherwise, someone who's really up to accelerate and expand their intellectual perspective, their impact, their financial opportunity, and all of that kind of stuff. What is the one biggest piece of advice you could say that is going to move someone from, the classic where they are now to where they want to be? What do you think is going to be the most transitioning and transformative advice that you've gathered over the years that you could impart to some other people?
Yeah. Look, there's probably 7, but I'll give you probably the best one, is go do your entrepreneurial apprenticeship. What I mean by that is it's a long life. The deal, if you're under 40 right now, you got so much time. If you're under 50, you got plenty of time. If you're under 60, you still got time. Most people don't do their entrepreneurial apprenticeship. They go out there, they knock their head, they figure out this, they go, that doesn't work, just like I did. My thought would be go work for someone for 3 to 5 years and figure out the journey, figure out the lessons, get proximity to the deals, proximity to the decision making. In my success resources business, I have what I call a positively exit strategy for my staff. What that means is I want them to come in, and I don't want them to spend longer than 5 years with us. Come in, unless they're really a career and they want to stick with that. But most of the people in that company are entrepreneurs. So I say, come in. I'll show you what you need to learn. We'll start up, we'll get a product and idea. We'll go to MVP. We'll do feasibilities. We'll do all that. Test it while you're in that business with me. And then when you leave there, you'll be better equipped to go do it, right? The big pitfall every business owner makes when they make that jump is they don't know how to deal with Monday morning when there's no salary. One of the key things that I do with my staff on the 3 to 5 year exit is point number 7 of the 10 steps that I've got is you need to go commission only for at least 6 months. I want you to feel what it's like to wake up and not have anything and think, how do I get through that? Because the psychology of that hurts most business owners. They can't get through that. That's why I don't like taking a salary. If I come into a venture and I bring value, I have to make it work. But you're going to pay me 2 to 4% of turnover because I know I can make it work. But it's become so normalized to start my month at 0. And I've got an expensive lifestyle. I've got expensive expenses. So I have a system, a process where I help people positively exit, learn what they do their entrepreneurial apprenticeship so they can go spend the next 50 years learning what they've got to learn. That's what people need to do.
Amazing. Great advice. Well, mate, you've brought so much value to me and obviously our audience. Now I want to try and give some value back to you. I mean, how can we support you? Have you got any events coming up? Have you got, where can people go to find out more and to support your vision and your mission, and how can we support you?
Look, I appreciate you saying that. I typically don't like offering anything because I just want, if somebody valued this, they just tag you and I and just go, Michael, I love that. And if they really want to get deep into this, message me and just go, hey, how would I do this deal? What would you suggest, right? I know that the more that I help, the more that I kind of unlock stuff that just manifests in my life. This is, I do 30 podcasts a month. Whenever I do this, I just try and give value, and it's a funny game, but the more value I give, the more people that I want to partner with take my call. It's a funny game. So that's all I would suggest.
Yeah, it's a funny metaphysical entanglement, isn't there? Well, mate, we'll put a link to Success Resources at the bottom anyway. Thank you so much for your time. It's very gracious of you, and I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.